from the Fired Up with CJ show.
Woo! If you've ever wanted more energy in your day, then do we have the Work Half as Hard show for you. Today we'll talk about throttling back to get more, how to do it, why in the world you want to do it, and why doing it doesn't make you lazy, but instead gets you ahead of the game. That plus we'll talk about super highs and lows, both on the same day, chasing spirit and being chased back, dealing with ego, dancing with stingrays, hanging with dragonflies, bike rides gone easy, and why an intern at Under Armour just made your day. So welcome back to the show, CJ. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine. Woo! Okay, intern at Under Armour.
Yeah, it's been a really cool week for the show. Apparently, Under Armour has their own blog, and they
That's the clothing, right? It's a sports clothing place.
Sports clothing, and they wrote an article. We're assuming it's a summer intern, whoever it is. Thank you very much. Wrote a beautiful article on Under Armour about some of the top podcasts out there and what you can get from them, and included Inspire Nation in there.
Yay!
And our show has taken another gazunga leap. It's like somebody took a brick to the choo-choo train on what, Back to the Future 3, loaded up the brick and
nice.
And just
love
took off.
it.
So you never know where the magic comes from.
Yes.
All you can do is put yourself out there and try to share as much of yourself or give as much help as you can to people. And then thank you, Under Armour.
Right. Things disappear out of the universe. I have had stuff like that this week too, where I'm just teaching workshops at, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where people want workshops. They want mediation, stuff that I know how to do, I haven't done, and people are just asking from out of the blue. It's a cool thing. And I don't have to do any of like sales, going down and like going through the sales list and calling people and trying to get clients. They just kind of come to me. It's a beautiful thing.
I think that's where, and that's part of what I want to talk about today is the work half is hard. And I got this huge thing in automatic writing this morning about it, about Micheal, this is your theme moving forward for a while. But there's always, and just like the backdrop behind me where there's this beautiful glacial lake behind me, what we see in the world around us to me is just a reflection of what's going on up above. So if you want to make big changes down here, you work on meddling above or inside.
You mean like the as above, as below, or do you mean like
exactly
in your brain into your heart? What? So you meant as above, as below.
As above, so below.
Okay.
To make big changes in our lives requires diving in on the inside, going quiet, slowing down, prayer, intention work, all of this beautiful stuff to bring out the magic here. What it doesn't always require is sales here. Now, if you're in sales, you got to do selling. But some of the real selling takes place on the shift on the other side. So you've been doing all the work and you've been putting yourself out there and trying to help others. And all of a sudden, pop.
Yeah, I just say yes. People say, do you want to do this? I'm like, okay, yes. Do you want to do that? Okay, yes. I get frankly.
I'm going to still say boundaries, though. You've got to have some boundaries.
No. Like, people don't say, like, do you want to, like, run naked in the street? I'm like, yes. I mean, it's usually...
Wasn't that the clothing optional hotel you were telling us about last week?
That's true. They didn't ask me, but there was a point when the gentleman who owned the place was showing me various... He had just come from a swim at the pool, and he was in his robe, and he was telling me the morning calisthenics. He's German, and he's very like athletic, and so he's showing me the morning calisthenics that he goes through, and he's pulling his knee up to his chest, and I just thought, no, I don't please, robe, don't flop open. So anyhow, going back to the clothing optional.
More than your money's worth.
Exactly.
Anyway,
I don't know where that went, but yes, I've had.
Did she get in the? Jessica was like, did she get in the what do you call it?
Jacuzzi?
In the spirit?
No, I did not get in the spirit. I'm a little bit too shy for that, but I've had to going back to sales. So I just pray. Like, I just pray to be of the highest service and highest good. That's all I'm doing. And then people just come and ask me, and like people who coached with me 4 months ago are like, hey, do you want to coach? I mean, people just come out of the woodwork. Why they come, where they come from, I have no idea. But they come and they ask me to do things that, frankly, I really I've done before, but never in the venue. So someone said, hey, I'd like you to put together a workshop for my team for putting together a business plan. And I put together business plans myself, so I know how to do it. I've worked with individual senior executives to put together those kinds of things, but I've never done it in a group. So it's not like I don't know what I'm doing, but I've never done it in this context. And so I say yes, and I don't really know what it's going to look like. And I frankly won't know until I get there. So those are the kinds of things I say yes to, and then
I'm proud of you, CJ, because this is a stretch for you. And
oh no, that's how my whole life works. Are you kidding me? It's not a stretch. Everything I say yes to, half the time I'm like, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. I hope none of my clients are listening to this. And some of the times I'm doing sessions and I don't even know where it's, when you do coaching, this is what happens. You don't know where it's going. You just let your intuition lead, and you really don't know where it's going. You just let it lead and just cross your fingers. And sometimes, more often than not, almost every single time actually, when I think back, miraculous things happen because you just trust your intuition.
I call it pulling the golden thread. You don't know where it's going to lead you. So it's almost like one breadcrumb to the next. And the answer comes if you're open, if you're super present, if you've got yourself in that sacred, special place.
Yes.
And the answer comes to you. I used to get really nervous before my interviews and before my coaching sessions because I didn't know where they get. I'm challenging myself not to say that anymore as a present tense because that's setting an intention there, but to pay attention to it. Because it's just like you're saying, you don't have any idea what comes. But if you can get comfortable in I don't have any idea what comes, it makes it easier on us.
Yes, it does. Because frankly, the funny thing is we never really know what's coming. It's just we try.
In life, none of us.
And I'm saying this as not a recovering. I'm still planning like crazy. And I do it knowing that there's a certain amount of insanity associated with planning as well. But it's oddly comforting, so I do it anyways. But, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, So putting together plans is helpful, but it's helpful and it's hopeful, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen as you expect. So I have a generalized plan in my head about what we're going to do in this workshop, because if for whatever reason my intuition fails me and I just go blank, which sometimes happens, right? You're like, I got nothing. At least I have something to fall back on, which is exactly what I do with the show. Like I have these little questions that I thought, okay, these are the questions. So if the flow isn't happening, because sometimes the guest is off and then the flow doesn't happen on their end, and then that affects me. So, and then I lose track as I'm trying to tune into it and it's not working, and then I get all twisted up. So I have a set of questions that I put together, and you know what? Yesterday, I didn't use any one of these questions. I never asked any of these questions, but I had it just in case. What does yours look like when you plan with guests?
I wish I could show you if I share screen. It's kind of like a mad scientist here, although I keep it for the interview down to a few. But I have, so let's pull up earlier today's interview, brilliant interview with Tim Sanders of Love is the Killer app. Oh my God, this guy is amazing.
Ooh.
He's the Chief Solutions Officer at Yahoo. He's a very, very special human being, extremely kindness and compassion oriented. So if I look here, I have probably a good 100 questions here.
You have 100 questions?
Probably 100 questions, yeah. And so then as I start, so I've got an intro question, second question, both of those are highlighted in green. Green means that this has to do with his history, something he's personally been involved with. So can you tell me a little bit about your past? Or he had the nickname, the Little Reverend. Where did that come from? And how did he go on to get to broadcast.com and eventually to Yahoo. So I have about his story, I have 25, 30, a good 40 questions on him. Highlighted are probably 15 or so of those questions. And I typically do green for him. And if it's in that section and I still really am interested in it, I'll put a yellow highlight. If not, it's kind of background information. If I need to look and scan at a moment's notice, I can get that. Then we go into the general part of the interview. And I have the first question there, sometimes with a timestamp. I want to get there by 20 minutes in or whatever minutes in. And that's highlighted in red. Red, urgent, super important. Want to do this. Then I go to violet for the main points that I want to make sure I covered.
That you want to say in response to his stuff. Okay.
So I have a bunch in violet, then the occasional one in green because we're going back to his story. Then you've got all these points that have no highlighting to it. And then toward the end, I've got red, 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 red. These are some really critical pieces that you want to get to. Today, we just interviewed or did the interview before this. I'd say it was a brilliant interview. He was brilliant. And I asked maybe 5 of these questions.
5 out of the 100. You're going to have him on again.
15 or so were covered by him, maybe even 20 were covered. And if we go into his story, maybe 30 of them are covered without me having to ask them. We got into the flow, the rhythm, the cadence, and there's something special in that place. And they got tick, 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 without me having to go there. But now, like you, this is my list. But what I learned early on, I would say there was a struggle between head and heart. How do I do the show where I open it up to flow, yet I still get to ask some of the things I want?
Right.
I don't honestly know exactly what shifted from those real early days. But I know now, and I know you're very capable of it, I can do this dance where I have the general blob of what I want to cover, but let him go wherever he wants to go within that area. And if you have to, guide him back very gently. You can almost guide without words. And what comes out is, and I pray before each show, I'm guessing you do too, for my highest good and the highest good of all.
Yeah, I do that before.
And then I let it go.
Yeah, I do the highest good for myself and the audience, and for the guests, and then I just say like, well, let's go. And I don't know where it's going to go. And sometimes I've been so busy this summer with launching my child and launching this writing assignment, and I just have, I don't know, I just keep on adding more things onto the plate. Welcome to my world. But I'll read the book and I'll get to the point where like I don't even have time to write questions. So my husband and I go for a walk around the lake before each interview. And I'm like, hey, can I just tell you about this book? And then I'll tell him about the book. So he gets a summary of a really great book, information that's useful to him, hopefully, or at least I tell myself that's what he's getting. I don't know what he's getting.
That or he's just a brilliant listener.
Yes. So now in the conversation, I'm like, okay, that's a really good direction going, and I will just like put text messages, and that's all I do now for some interviews. This one in particular, I had a lot of questions because this is a woman who is talking about launching her kid to college, and she has a brilliant book that I love, that I would like to write one that's like that book. So I wanted to ask her a lot of stuff, and some stuff that I didn't know how I was going to fit in just just flowed into it. It was great. She was fantastic. Melissa T. Schultz. Very beautiful piece of work.
Very, very cool. So what I do before interviews, you may do something similar. So you go for the walk and the answers come to you. For myself, I have just the morning to read, and today was a noon. Fridays are always a noon interview. So I don't even have the full morning to read because we have our morning ritual, automatic writing. We're at the gym this morning. So then you read the book, and then I need to step away from it. And I even step away from it while reading. Today I was watching this hilarious Swedish movie, the 100-year-old man who stepped out a window and lost something in an elephant. It's a brilliantly funny movie because what I'm doing is I dive deep and I'm just like, eat book, step away, step away, step away, step away, eat book, step away, eat book, step away. And doing this, it's something we had on an amazing guest, Dr. Srini Pillai, originally of Harvard. and had him on the show. He has a brilliant book called Tinker Dabble Doodle Try, which is about the
Hmm.
power of the unfocused mind, of stepping away. And that's when the neurons come together and the brilliant ideas come to you.
Mm.
So always my focus comes from the unfocus in reading. Step away, go in, step away, go away. Then I step back and I'm like, all right, we get to set up our backdrop, set up this. And then, so I kind of clean the area, which is stepping away from it, calms my mind a little bit. And then even if I don't need it, let's take a shower.
Mm.
Oftentimes the best ideas come when I'm showering, having nothing to do with it. And
Hmm.
today it was oh my gosh, I forgot. It's Friday. It's trash day. I only have 5 minutes to the interview. Take out the trash.
Right. Well, going back to the theme of, I had to be like, what are we talking about again? And the theme was adding energy into your day. And those are the ways that you add energy, right? So you're working and then you step back, because that stepping back allows you to kind of get, I think, get a meta perspective and then gain a little bit more energy, because all the things that you're talking about are generally like movement, moving around, doing something, which I think is energy producing. So even though it feels like, why aren't you just sitting down and focusing on writing your stuff? You're actually energizing yourself and walking away and coming back and gaining perspective. And I think that sometimes we think, it's that you had said, like, maybe are we being lazy? But I think in that case, or are we being unfocused? But I think it actually helps with the focus, I think, and energizing you.
I agree. And yeah, the theme is getting more energy by doing less.
Yep.
Oftentimes we think how well we're taught, particularly in Western society, give it your best, give it all you got. And what I'm hearing lately is don't give it your best. Give it half of your best.
Right.
Because if you give it your best, you're fatigued. You're not present. You might be a little short and grouchy. Your kindness and compassion may go down, and your creativity is certainly
Right.
through the floor because you gave it everything you had. If instead there's a brilliant bicycle racer, he was national class or world class, Randy Wicker out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And he would say, always leave fuel in the tank.
Mm.
If you don't leave fuel in the tank and a cyclist attacks you and goes up the road, a lance goes up on the road on you, if you didn't leave something in the tank, you've got nothing left. So even at work, when you're being told work harder, if you give it all you got, you're gonna fail. Why? Because interpersonal relations in the workplace are huge. If you gave it all you got, you've got nothing left for anything interpersonal, which is the intangible that's not spoken about. That's
Mm.
actually what Tim was talking about today, is about bringing love to the workplace and the
Mm-hmm.
intangible that's most important, of that care, compassion, and love.
Mm-hmm.
If you are so focused, this is what interns do so much. Intern, college, MBA, whatever, they get this great internship. I'm going to go to Google for the summer.
Right.
Woo, I made it. I'm
Right.
going to Google. They go to Google and they work their ever loving tail off. They make no friends. They mingle with nobody, but they think they did the most awesome job because they tried so hard, and they don't get invited back.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that I've noticed is in a lot of people that I coach. I've coached several people who have said, "Why haven't I gotten promoted? I got promoted early on, and now I'm not really getting promoted." And oftentimes they believe that it's because their intellectual brilliance. I'm one of the best blankety blank attorneys in the country, like constitutional, attorney or whatever it may be, and I'm not getting promoted. And I know that my work is brilliant. Like I've gotten I mean, it's brilliant, but people don't like him. And he's like, I just don't. And I said, well, who is getting promoted? And he'll say, well, there's this guy. He's really good at business development and everyone likes him, but he's not really all that bright. And I said, but he's getting promoted. And I'm like, why do you think that's so? He's like, I don't know. And I thought, could be because he's focusing on the relationships. And work is always half relationship, half work. And I think that oftentimes, especially with my ethnic background, it's all about work, 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 work,
Mhm.
work, work. Put in the hours, work, 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 work. And it really is about equal amount of relationship. And when you forget that, because you haven't stored enough energy in your tank, then I think it affects your overall performance, the way that you're perceived. Because whether we like it or not, whether we're promoted is whether we're liked. It sounds awful, right? But it's true.
Well,
You
but
know what
who
I
would
mean?
you rather work with?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when you do have to burn the midnight oil and pull off that project, do you want to be sitting down with the person that makes your skin crawl?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to want to be sitting down with a person who you can call a close friend or at least a friend.
Mm-hmm.
There's a technique I do with a lot of my coaching clients. It goes right along the same lines as you, which is have them work really hard during the first few hours, particularly when it's email check time. Don't check the email. Dive into your most important work first. Scan for absolute emergencies, get the heck out of it, dive into the work. Then when you're toast, particularly afternoon, where your eyes are rolling back in your head and you're hitting tilt, and you know it's going to take you, 3 or 4 hours to do 30 minutes worth of work because you're toast. Go into superhero mode. Put on your Superman or Superwoman cape and see what you can do to help people, to give value to them in the afternoon. If you go into superhero mode in the afternoon, when you were pretty useless anyway, you're putting chips in the bank. You feel great, which energizes you. You're going to be able to get more work done. They feel great because you came out of their way to help them. It's a total win-win.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. You know, it's funny. There are times I don't know if I ever told you this. A friend of mine, or actually someone from a nonprofit that I work with, said, "Hey, the people at TEDx would like to talk to you." And I was like, "Great." And so he's like, "I'm connecting you with them. Do I have your permission?" I said, "Sure." And then I got an email saying, like almost like 5 minutes later, like, "When should we set up a meeting?" And I was like, "What?" And they said, "Can we meet you tomorrow?" It's like, okay,
Wow.
okay, fine.
TEDx wants you back.
Yeah, so I go into this meeting and I haven't had a chance to talk to my friend who at the nonprofit who recommended that I talk to them. He's not really a friend, a work associate. And then and I really don't know what the TEDx people want from me because I don't have any time to prepare. I don't know what's even going on because it's all happening within a 24-hour period and I have a series of meetings, so I can't prepare anyway. So, and I know what TEDx
Which
is.
is sometimes the best.
Yes, I'm like, I don't know what's going to even happen at this meeting. And so I'm going into the meeting and I'm not sure, do they want me to hand out brochures? Do they want me to MC? You know, do they want me to do a talk? Like, what do they want from me? I honestly don't even know. So I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared for anything, frankly, which is not generally what you do if you had an opportunity like this. But I didn't know. And it happened so quickly and I didn't have any time to prepare. So I went in.
I want to pause you there because this is the juice. Sometimes going in unprepared, I call it the open-hearted warrior. That's been coming to me in my writing lately. Your walls aren't up. You have no idea. And that is empty cup. You're open to anything. At that opportunity, the magic can happen.
I was like, do you want me to, I really was open to doing any of those four things. And so I said, so I sit down and I have no idea what's happening. And I said, so tell me a little bit about what you had in mind. And what's this meeting all about or something like that. And they said, well, we want to hear about your talk. Of course, I don't have I have no talk. I don't give, how like we have both of us interview guests that have a talk, like they have like 10 pitches in their like various 15-minute talks that they give all the time. And so they could spew off. Yeah, they get like autopilot stuff. And so I was like, okay, this is interesting. They want me to do a talk. And I said, well, because I have no talk. So I said,
Archangel, download now.
Exactly. So I said, so tell me a little bit about the theme of, they said, well, we have a theme. And I said, what's the theme? They said, transformation. And I thought, okay, I should be able to talk about something like this, about transformation. And I said, tell me a little bit about what kind of thing you hope the guests will get out of it. Like, what do you want the arc of the show to be, and what do you want as the intention of this? What do you want to have someone get out of this afterwards? And tell me a little bit about the speakers that you have and where you perceive gaps in the content that you're offering. And, in this because I have lots of content that I could give you. So really it's more like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about. So
what did you say?
Yeah, what do you want me to say? So they tell me, oh, we have this kind of person. And they said, so what we really want to do is hear about a person's personal transformation. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, I have And I said, so let me tell you about like possible things I could talk about. And I list out like different types of transformation that I've gone through and what I'm doing. And they said, well, we'd like that one. And I'm like, I don't even know what that one is. They think it's a standard pitch. I don't even remember. I'm like, so let me clarify. Can you tell me what you heard about that thing that you like? Because I don't even know what which one they liked or what they liked, because I don't even
Can
remember
we
what
throw this up as a video, how to get a TED Talk?
So then I literally they're like, pick this one, and then I'm like, what is it? And then they tell me what it is, and I'm like, okay, this is the theme, and they're like, no, we want you literally to say what you just said, and I don't remember what I've just said. Anyways, that's how I got my TED Talk. So it just goes to show
And
you.
it was a beautiful TED Talk. For anybody who hasn't
Thank
seen
you.
it, it's well worth checking out.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of work that went into it. It seems like it's so simple, but what happened was actually with the backstory with that is that I didn't really know. Like, I thought they wanted me riff on this topic. They're like, and it took like several revs when they're like, no, literally say what you said to us in that coffee shop. And I didn't even remember. So I had to like look through my notes, and they said, and you either say that or like you're done. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll say this thing. But it wasn't easy. That TED Talk was not easy because it was, my time was truncated because a lot of the other people, they slipped me in last minute because one of the couple people that they did have in weren't working. So they wanted me to go in last minute to be a plug-in, from a gap that they had in their schedule. So yeah, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but one of the best things because it challenged me to say yes when I didn't even know what I was saying. This is a perfect example of saying yes when I didn't even really know what I was saying yes to. And what happened the month before, without even talking to this person that I know who worked for the nonprofit, I said, I think I'd like to do a TED Talk one day. And in fact, I talked to someone that said, someone is interested in buying the TED franchise, like actually opening up selling the TED franchise. Would you be interested in doing that? And I was like, I don't know. So it was all this stuff that was focused around TED in this bizarre way. And then this phone call came out of seemingly nowhere. But going back to what we were talking about before, if you set out an intention, I'd like to do TED, I think. And I don't even know where it came from because it wasn't like a logical thing. It just, one day I'd like to do TED. And like a month later, it shows up at my door. You can't even make these things up, right? Like this Under Armour person that just showed you, you probably like always appreciate a bump, but like out of nowhere, boom, your traffic just, just life happens. I think if you're in the flow, and if you're open-hearted and you listen and you respond, or you listen to what's coming to you and you say, yes, I want to do that, then the universe is like, great. It goes back to the thing I was mentioning to you before. I heard this great interview with Adi Ashanti. Have you ever heard of him? He's so good. And he said, and he was talking about enlightenment, and he said, there's a period in which you are chasing spirit. Like, I want this so bad. I really want this really bad. I want to be, one with the divine. I want to be enlightened, or whatever your term is. And then you get to a point where it starts happening, and then spirit, it's like you're chasing spirit. And then he said, and after a while, spirit starts chasing you. And that's the kind of stuff, like the Under Armour thing, the TED Talk, I think of it as spirit chasing you, where the spirit's like, okay, you said, knock, knock, knock. Oh, Michael, you said you wanted to grow. Are you interested in this Under Armour thing? Okay, good. Here.
And that's what's going on. There's a level of self-confidence with that. I'm not even sure if self-confidence is the right word, but of, wow, this thing is really taking off. Wow, look at this happening, where we know we've put in whatever it is that you put in, and like you've been chasing, strange way to put it, but you've been chasing long enough, and now all of a sudden
it's chasing you.
It's starting to come back. Yeah, it's now it's interesting you say it, because for the last month or so I've been feeling I'll have a TED Talk in the next year, and because we've wanted to get. I've been a speaker for a long time, but now my speaking of traveling around and speaking stopped when we started this show. But it's something I had done extensively, and I get some mana, some real juice from that. But I had put it aside for the show, and now I'm like once a month, maybe a little bit more. I'd like to turn that on and travel and be with people and speaking, because we're filling, each time you and I speak here, we're filling a good sized football stadium, if not much larger than that.
Hmm.
But now I want to fill the stadium
Right.
and literally be there. And so I feel the TED Talk will be a piece of that. It often for speakers, it's a calling card.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? There's something about a live audience. Like when I gave that talk, I was just like really projecting my energy out and holding the space. And I think it's a really good practice to get into, especially if you do group work, because I've had these group sessions that have materialized out of nowhere, like I said. and and actually, I'm quite honest, like with the person that because they said, I would like you to do a team performance thing. I'm like, with this work, with this predictive index, which they don't have anything. So I'm like, yes, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure how to put it together, but I figure it out. But in these workshops, like amazing things have happened. And it's really because like I think I've told you people are crying and they're mad and like there's just all sorts of emotional mayhem has happened. And it's because I'm holding huge amount of space in that room, for 5 to 18 people to just like feel safe, like they're in a cocoon, and lots of cool stuff has happened. Lots of cool stuff. So,
What does it mean for people listening? What does that mean to hold space?
okay, that's a really good question because I didn't know when someone said it before. So if you have a room, you imagine that like literally, like energetically, and you are taking your heart and you're taking the energy of your heart and spirit and you're encircling the entire room. So you're projecting out, maybe a little bit back, but mostly out and forward. It's almost, I imagine, like a big lasso, is that the word? With a rope that goes circling around the audience and then, or the people in the workshop. And I'm just creating like an energetic container. So let's say that there's like a cylinder that's around, or an orb, a circle around everyone in that room. It's like a big, gigantic protective bubble. So that allows them to open up and feel safe.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean when I say that.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. So there is a magic to it's one of the challenges I've had on this show, which is I want to do little snippety things for YouTube to help people.
Hmm.
And as strange as it is, and I know it's just a matter of practice, as strange as it is though, the idea of flipping on the camera and just having me speak for 5 minutes is like eek.
Yeah. Oh no, it's so hard to do.
Whereas if Jessica was in the room or in the other room and said, tell me, Micheal, 5 minutes on self love, 5 minutes on open hearted worry, if somebody else is involved. And that dynamic when you're speaking in front of others, it's a multiplier.
Yeah, it
So I
is.
imagine in your TED talk, the energy was one of the highest you've ever spoken because of the audience there.
Yeah, people were crying. Like the person sitting I ran into someone who said, "Oh my God, the guy next to me was he was just sitting there and he's really serious. He looked like an accountant, very kind of like buttoned up and like really emotionally tucked in. And then he heard your talk and he just like was sobbing. And I was like, whoa, and so people had that kind of emotional response. Some people, if they're open, and people still like they'll watch a video and said, "Oh my God, I was crying after I was watching it," because it's that kind of like it's because, and it's hard. Like when you watch a video, it's not going to have the same impact because it may, but you can feel the energy. People have said that they can feel the energy because I'm like really holding space when you're in the space, the actual space of Micheal, which is gigantic, like a couple thousand people. You can really feel the energy, and it's weird to think that your energy can project that gigantically, but it can.
What did it feel like when you got on there and you're going on stage and you're about to talk?
Well, I was trembling, and then I was like, "Spirit, you've asked me to come here. I'm here. Please help me." And the thing with TED Talks is sometimes people have like clickers and things that they have in the background, but mine was shorter, and I memorized the whole thing because I wanted to move around and I wanted to be connected. I didn't want to have some other thing that I was like connected to. So, so I had to memorize every single thing that I said, which sounds crazy, but for 4 minutes, I not only memorized what I was going to say, I memorized like the hand gestures that would actually bring the greatest amount of understanding to the various points, and like everything was like it was like a dance, and it was a memorized dance and talk. And so I did it so many times, like probably 2 weeks before, every single day I would practice memorizing. I memorized the first part, I memorized the last part, and then I would memorize the middle, because someone had told me that in memorizing, you want to memorize the first, and then what happens is people over practice the first and don't practice the ending, and
You
the
don't get
endings don't,
around to the
yeah.
end.
Yeah, so I did beginning and middle, and then I kept an integrating beginning and middle, middle and end, and then I would put it all together for 2 weeks. I would just practice every day, the gestures, the voice, the inflection in your voice, because everything is communicating. Your body's communicating, your voice is communicating, your heart, your energy is out there, and then you're communicating with your words. So with that TED Talk, I was practicing. It's like, it's kind of like one of those things, right? Because you're doing multiple things. And if it were just a natural flow, where it would probably be better, but I just did not want to leave anything for error. And by the time you practice for 2 weeks, you get up there and it's like a jiu-jitsu move that you've done over and over again. And then you just let it rip. You're like, I don't know what I said or how I'm going to say it, or I don't remember exactly what I'm supposed to say, but it's just ingrained in my mind and my body and my spirit. And this is the time to just let it rip. And then that's what I did the day of, is just, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, I literally, at the end, I'm like, I don't even know what happened. It was like beginning and end, and I had no idea what happened. I was no longer there. I was being used as a vehicle to
That's the
communicate stuff.
best.
Yeah.
You practice, which has a lot of head, it has some heart in it, and
Mm-hmm.
then you say, head, all right, I'm putting you to the side.
Mm-hmm.
We're going with the magic now.
Yep. And that's what I at least was trying for. Woo,
Woohoo!
yeah. All right, so tell
So
me about dragonflies. And I always love your animal adventure. So what happened with
it
dragonflies and stingrays?
so every day right now, every day we're getting a unique animal visit.
Mm,
And so we've had two in the last few days. So no, I mean it's every day, but two distinct ones. Yesterday, Jessica was at the beach, and I kind of ran down the beach past her, and she said, "Well, I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm going to stay here, double back and pick me up on your way back down the beach." And I could see her eventually crouch down with something, and I've been starting to carry out my little super zoom camera out
mm-hmm.
onto the beach, and so I
Yeah.
snap a few pictures, and then I come back over to her, and she was pretty much like, "What took you so long?" She told me that later, but she's pointing down, and they're only a few feet from her feet.
The
Yeah,
stingrays?
baby stingray, baby little stingray, about
Oh,
6, 8 inches in circumference, a tail a foot and a half long,
wow.
is fluttering by her, and she's like, I said a prayer, and I wanted to call in a butterfly, and
Oh,
instead,
it's like a
like
water
a sea
butterfly.
bingo, and spent over half an hour with us. And this little baby would get pushed around pretty good by the waves, and it would disappear, and then she'd come back over to us. She'd disappear again, come back over to us. One time we saw her, she was taken way up by a wave. And so it wasn't even enough water for her whole body to be in the water. Like her eyes are like above the water. And she's like scooting back down into the wave and swims her way right back over to us.
Oh,
She was
cute.
magical. Yes, did put those pictures on Facebook.
Okay, I'm gonna have to
No,
look at
no,
them.
didn't. Sorted through. Got the
No,
dragonfly
put
up.
them
We will
on.
get.
We need to
We
see
will.
the,
We will.
yeah.
And then the
Put
dragonfly
them
came up.
on.
Dragonfly a few days ago was outside in the house. I think when we got out of our car, beautiful, clear, translucent wings with like a stripe, almost like an old World War I fighter plane, a stripe on each wing. One of the
Hmm.
biplanes would have these stripes on it, and then a white long tail. And it flew down right by us, and we'd walk a few feet, and it'd fly down and land in front of us. We'd walk a few feet, it'd land in front of us. We'd move back, it'd go back, and it just did this dance with us for a while until finally, like, okay, we get the message. We sat down with the dragonfly for half an hour, and
Mm.
and I'm like, is it okay if I touch you? And I was able to move my hand out, and we were holding fingertip to wing. And I've got
Oh,
a beautiful shot on Facebook. There's like a tenth of a millimeter in that shot between its translucent wing and my finger.
oh,
And
so sweet.
it was just this amazing experience. we're hearing, what do these things mean? Well, part of it, we're convinced, means baby will be on the way soon, but it's also an exercise in presence. When you
Mm,
take the time with wildlife, it means you really have to watch your energy. You have to drop into your sacred space. I think if your mind is going crazy, the animal is out of there.
mm-hmm.
And so you go quiet, you be fully present, and you realize the gift of this moment. And that's really a big theme of mine right now is how can we drop in and not work as hard? Everything will work out. It'll work out 10 times better than you ever expected if you're not slamming your head against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're with wildlife and you just be, whether that's a deer in your yard, whether that's something on a distant hillside, you take the time, whether it's a bird that's landed across the street, if you just take that time, it's almost like dropping into somebody else's eyes.
Mm-hmm. It's last week we did a merging with an animal, and it literally is you when you go through, you merge with that animal and you look through their eyes and you ask them for their wisdom. And the interesting thing, just for folks who are not familiar with shamanism, you can do it with anything. You can do it with a rock, you can do it with a mountain, and it doesn't have to even be nearby. Like I can imagine going to Mount Shasta, which is a really sacred place for me because I took a shamanic retreat there, and I sometimes imagine going into Mount Shasta. I need just a picture of Mount Shasta, but because it's energy, I mean, I can go to Mount Shasta in a matter of seconds. You know, it's in my head, it's in my energy, it's in my field. And so you can do that with, the dragonfly, you can do that with the stingray, and you can do it with a mountain, you can do it with a rock, you can do it with a lake, you can do it with a tree, you can do it with a flower. Like it doesn't matter, just merging, because each of those different um, life forms have different kind of energy associated with them. So it's kind of fun to see, like, gosh, what is it like to merge with a bear? Like it could be a bear that you see online, but you ask for merging with the bear spirit. You go down to the underworld, the lower world, and merge with the bear spirit. And it's really quite powerful, actually, because all this life has wisdom. We all have wisdom from being here on this earth.
Something tells me if you were to, I don't know if I'm going to go back to the TED Talk, but maybe so. If you imagine kind of like Amy Cuddy and we had another recent guest on talking about power poses, if you put yourself in the shoes, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
of bear wisdom, and you come back, yeah, there you go, CJ, you've got bear power.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
You can't help but it.
I don't know if you ever interviewed this guy. I think his name is Mark something. I can't remember what the last name is. I interviewed him 3 years ago, but he was talking about body language,
Mhm.
and the body language that we hold is really related to our animal state. I mean, you can see animals, peacocks. What do they do when they are feeling like they have to get big to tell other animals, like, I'm the one in charge, or don't mess with me? And when you go to business meetings, haven't you ever seen this peacocking thing happen when
Oh, of
everyone's at
course.
a table? It's exactly the same move that,
Arms are behind the head,
yeah,
wings are out
it's
wide.
called peacocking because this is what peacocks do as a way to kind of mark their territory, or like a guy on a subway with his arms stretched across. This is kind of like an animal going, mine, 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 like, you know. But these all our body language is completely related, or like little animals that are trying to hide. So when you see body
Oh,
language
that's
that
small.
even mimics that, they're trying to get small, and like, maybe if you don't see me, you're not going to attack me. So if you're in a meeting, if you see someone kind of like turning in like that, that's kind of, they're telling you with their body language, like, please don't attack me. Maybe if I get small, you'll leave me alone.
You're
I'll get
making
that
me
report
think
for you.
of our kitty cats, and two of them are rescue feral cats, and how, well, Sir Meowsers, he always came with pow. He came with this energy of strength to him, but he also had this vulnerability. It had been a rough life on the
Mm-hmm.
streets for him. And so watching his body language change and seeing him soften as he lets his guard down,
Mm,
the more love we've given him. And Lumi, who was this gentle little thing, who we met him outside a meditation center, and he was getting pounced by other cats as he would try to eat. And so he was scared of everyone and everything. And now to see him sitting up good and tall, chest out and proud, chin
Mm,
up nice and high. So the body language is telling you both what your energy is having as an effect on those around you or your pets around you, I'm sure, and your kids around you too. You can learn from the feedback of others' body language, and at least with the animals, you can help work on your interaction to bring out the confidence that you can see in the body of them as well.
mm-hmm. Yep. Completely agree. So you met with, okay, what other things do we have on here? Being,
Well, you said you had super highs and super
oh,
lows both on the
me.
same day.
Yes. Okay, so I had a full day. I interviewed this woman that I mentioned, Melissa Schultz, on launching your college kid, and she just mentioned a couple things where I'm like, oh no, like imagine when you drop your kid off, and she said, and when you walk away from your child, don't turn back, because if you do, it'll just be all over. Because she said, I know people said that, but I turned back and I just started crying, and I'm like,
Is that
ah.
Cain and Abel, or what's the biblical story where you turn to salt if you look back?
Yeah, I think so. And then she was saying, and then you walked by the room and it's empty and you miss their energy. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, you're kind of imagining all these kinds of scenarios. And so, and then, and she was wonderful. But I mean, you wouldn't have known. I mean, she was so wonderful in presenting and stuff. But on the inside, I was like, ah. And then, so then it had that, and then during she'd mentioned a couple of conversations that you'd want to have with your child before they leave for college. So I grabbed lunch with my son. I had those conversations because he's leaving in 6 weeks, and then like this is all within like a 5 hour time span. So I interview her, I have lunch. I interview her, I have lunch with my son, and I go over to a launching party where they're meeting all the freshmen from Duke, and they're like saying goodbye and so all this happens within a very short period of time. And then the next morning I wake up and I am just like, I almost can't get out of bed. And it's like, oh my God, I can't even get out of bed. I don't even know what's going on. I thought, what? And I had this weird dream. So I worked on the dream. I'm like, I probably sat in bed for like an hour. And then I thought, I wonder if I'm depressed. I'm like, just get up. And because my son was actually going to be signing up for classes, and I wanted to be around because he was very anxious about the whole thing. So I went down. I said, how are things going? And I just ate my bowl of cereal to be around him for emotional support as he was doing his big first decision at Duke. I was eating my cereal, and then he's like, "Yay! I got into my classes," and I was like, "Yay! You got into your classes!" And so I was like, "Yay!" So I'm like really happy, from moving from like logy and sad to like joyously happy. And then I had a little lift, and then I thought, "Oh, I'm just so tired. I'm gonna go up and meditate because I need to I'd like to change whatever is happening on the inside here, or get clear with what's happening." So I go and meditate and have this beautiful meditation where I feel like I'm touching heaven. It's like this light, and I feel openness in my heart. I'm just feeling elated. And then after the meditation, I was like, I'm depressed. I went to sleep. I went to sleep till noon, which is really rare for me. Like I'm sleeping from like at this point 9 to noon. I'm just sleeping. And I woke
You
up and
needed it.
I thought, what is happening to me? Am I depressed? What's happening? And then I realized, then I thought, I better journal. So I did some automatic writing. It said, you just need rest. Like there's a lot of stuff that's going on emotionally, and that takes energy, and you need to rest. I thought, okay, I just need to rest. And then I thought, but I really want to work out because I want to work out before the day gets ahead of me because I have another full day planned. So I go out and I go for a run, and then I listen to Adi Ashanti, and then he tells me when we talk about this, you are chasing spirit, then spirit is chasing you. And how the closer you get to, your highest spiritual self, your ego pops up and goes, oh, you're depressed. Oh, what about your son? Aren't you sad about that? How about this? How about that? And then you're like, oh, no, I need to actually go into that and resolve that. And I thought, oh, I don't need to go into any of that and resolve that. I'm just sad and I'm tired. And that's all that it is. If I create the story that I'm sad and I'm going to like revel in this emotion and just fully embrace my sadness, which I did, like I was crying and I was sad. But then moments later, I was elated. It was like sad, elated, sad, elated, sad, elated. And it was interesting because I remember someone saying that when you get on a spiritual path and you open up your heart, what happens is the sadness you feel so much more deeply and poignantly, and the highs you feel just so much more like elated and joyous. And I actually felt that within a day, back and forth, back and forth. And this time around, what I didn't do is I didn't go into the story. I thought I could go into the story, oh, poor me, and he's leaving, all these, disastrous potential stories are going to happen. I'm just like, he's leaving. That's a fact. I'm sad. That is a fact as well. This is the reality. This is what's happened in reality. I can either run away from it, or push it away, run away, grasp onto the old times, but I'm just going to be with this, that I'm sad. And you know what? 2 seconds later, I may be happy. And neither happy or sad is good or bad. It's just what's happening. And, so much better to go through life. I've got to tell you, because I have a feeling my life is going to be going like this, and to feel the emotion, but not get so twisted around that it stops you, it paralyzes you from thinking any other thought. It was really quite good. I was really proud of myself from working my way out of that. Yeah.
You're reading the book of CJ,
Reading,
and the book is fascinating. And the book sometimes is going to have a story that's going to make you absolutely cry.
yeah.
And then you turn the page and the situation may have been completely changed. And you're going to be like, wow, I am so excited for this character.
Yeah.
But you're just being with what's on the page. You're not worrying about what's going to come on the next page. You're not trying to get ahead and tear the page of the book.
Or like, I don't want this page. Why is this character doing this?
You're just reading it.
Yeah.
You're not taking the book, putting it under the car.
Yes, I am doing the book of CJ, and it's a really different way of navigating through life. And I can't say that I mean, there was points when I was like dipping into it and like going into it and like becoming the emotion of sadness and getting tied into it. Or the flip side happens as well. I'm attached to being light and happy all the time. And I'm like, anytime the darkness comes away, I'm just like pushing it away. Instead, I'm like, oh, sadness, light, sadness, happiness, 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 sadness, happiness. It's kind of crazy. It's like a roller coaster. Anyways, that's what happened to me this week.
I like it.
Yes, but it was about energy. It's going back to what you said, going back to the theme, taking a break, right? Because I could have made up a story like, what's happening? Maybe I'm falling into, and I did for like seconds. Maybe I'm falling into deep depression. Maybe this is what life is. Am I going to be depressed when my son leaves? Oh my God, this is what my life is going to be as a depressed person. Oh my God! Like, it's like, calm yourself down. Meditate.
I'm picturing the old movie Airplane, where they're all getting in line to smack this woman silly.
Yeah. It was kind of like that, but I was just me smacking myself. So
the thing is, but it's good as a practice, though. One of the things that's good is not taking ownership of the emotion.
Yeah.
But diving into the emotion. That's okay. I'm sad. I'll be really sad in this moment, but I won't try to think, oh, poor me, woe is me, and like double up exponential on the sadness.
Right. It's the inner critic that makes it worse. Like if you can just like feel and go back and not like dwell or create stories or create judgment through the ego. It's the story. The ego is the thing that creates stories and creates judgment. But if you can just let go, surrender those things and go, it's nothing. It's not any of these things. These things are not going to happen. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but you'll know when the time comes. You don't have to like start feeling depressed now because you're depressed that you'll be depressed later. It just doesn't make any sense.
And then judge yourself
and then
for getting depressed that you may be getting depressed later.
Exactly. Like I really saw the role of the ego and how going into the stories and the inner critic and the judgment just makes a hard situation so much worse. So much worse. So, absolutely. Yeah, it was good to actually see that work itself out.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Any
those are
other
my
thoughts that you have?
That is just it. How about you? What are your thoughts for gaining energy and it's a Sitka and Sukha, is that it is? Effort and ease.
Well, I think you put it very well. I think right now, just like you are being chased,
Yeah.
it has been a full-on time for us. No complaint. Beautiful. A little challenging to figure out, and I kind of laugh at it. Not
Yeah.
laugh at it as a I wouldn't even say the brain blow on, but fill in the blank there. But I'm okay with it. But the best thing that I can do, where I challenge other people, is when the going gets tough, don't push against the going, throttle back. See what you can do to keep energy in the tank, put it in reserve. You're going to get through this. You may not have something together the nanosecond that your boss wants it, but if you keep energy in the tank, chances are it's going to be better and with less mistakes
Mm-hmm.
than if you push. So when the going gets tough, throttle back, put it into reserve, stay more present, and say, how can I be at 50% right now to fill my tanks during the busyness, during the
Mm-hmm.
craziness? And
Mm-hmm.
that's been my learning right now is I'm asking myself, I'm like, well, I didn't quite keep up with that. I didn't quite keep up with this. The really important stuff, that's triage, always gets done. But the other stuff, I'm like, all right, we'll find a way. We
Right.
will absolutely find a way. And yes, we will manifest because the show is so taken off. We'll manifest that team to take care of all these things in the long run. But right now, I'll figure out in the busyness how I can become, rather than get better at doing all the externalities, how can I get better at doing the job of being me and
Mm-hmm.
taking better care of me? And if I figure out that, all the rest will fall into place.
I love it. Woohoo! That was a perfect
Woo!
ending.
So, for everyone out there, this is Michael Sadler and
CJ Lou.
saying, be well, have fun, take extra good care of yourself, and throttle back when you need it. You earned it, you deserve it, and it's for everyone's best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And shine bright.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.